I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm happy to report that all board members are present this evening, and we will move on to all the audience. Would anyone like to address the board this evening? No one, so we will move to our reports. Dr. Dorner, do you have no report this evening, correct? No report, and we have no board reports. And item 6 is our quarterly update from Chartwell.
Here's a mic, Keith.
Give you a brief update of our program at this mid-year, and it'll take about 7 minutes, and I'm real excited to talk about some positive news that we have. We have really put together a resurgence of program coming out of the pandemic, and we're excited about that. And in order to do that, we've beefed up our central support team. So I want to introduce some of our newest members. Jody Cheever, who's actually here. Jody's director, executive chef, and he's here to help us really move things forward and beef up our menu and really get our programs put together. We've also brought on Tracy Hathaway, who has 15 years of supply chain experience, which of course these days with the disruption, she has really just been a tremendous help in helping us mitigate the supply chain issues as we go. Also, we have Monique Patterson, who is one of our, who's been one of our leads, who is now stepping up to a peer trainer and area assist. So Monique Patterson and Christina Talaga, you'll probably see them in your schools and helping out, and they're there to help. So if you see them, say hi. And if you have something you need them to do, get them working on it. We've been very fortunate to have some opportunities this fall and over the summer to really step up and serve the community. When the power outage hit Dolan Springs, we were thrilled to be able to donate well over 2,000 shelf-stable meals to help with the community and support the need there. Of course, we had people out there whose refrigerators died. They couldn't get to stores, and there was just a tremendous need. So we were thrilled to be able to support that. I thoroughly enjoyed our presentation at the services fair. That was just such a great event. And it's rare that we get to see the kids and the parents together and talk to them about their experience with our meals program and get to show them some of the things that they can be excited about. But it was just a tremendous event and thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, during the pandemic, people have been distracted. I know I have been. And when we're distracted and our work is shifted or changed, there's that potential for safety issues and injuries. So we've redoubled our efforts around safety, and we've put together a committee, and that committee has a member in each school. We have a safety champion in each school, and we're meeting once a month, and we're just really going through what do we need to do to not only avoid accidents and injuries, but what do we need to do to take it to the next step and get rid of all those near misses and those potential issues. One of the things we're doing is ramping up and increasing our frequency of inspecting all of our equipment and making sure it's in good, safe shape. We've added a safety manual and a daily and weekly safety update. Next. some of the signage. We do still have this signage for the cafeterias available. So we do want to make sure that everyone knows if some of the signs are getting worn, if they're been pulled down and missing, we can still provide. We've got some fresh and exciting ideas. First of all, our Discovery Kitchen, which we'll talk a little bit about on some later slides, but we're featuring Discovery Kitchen, Student Choice, and the Mood Boost program. The Mood Boost program is really a nutrition education program. It actually is going to dovetail very well into the district's nutrition and health initiative that we're just beginning recently. Our Student Choice program is a program in which we bring out to the students potentials for new concepts and new foods. We just piloted a build your own burritos, tacos, taco salads, and nacho bar at Lee Williams. And within 3 days, we had an additional 100 students eating every single day that really weren't eating before, and they just love it. So much so that now we have to hire more people to have enough people there to take care of it. So that's part of our student choice and making sure that we're always ahead of the curve on what the students want. Next, please. Discovery Kitchen is also a health and nutrition education program. And in the schools, we'll be doing monthly demonstrations of food and nutrition. Very quick little short programs, but demonstrating the potential of food as a way to enhance our life. We continue to partner with the 21st Century Grant program to provide supper meals at the schools. We're hoping that there will be additional grant schools in the upcoming year. Thank you. This is the seed to table Discovery Kitchen that we did last month. And coming up in January, we're going to be doing a smart and healthy snacking demonstrations in the schools. We've talked about the Mood Boost before, and we did roll that out in the elementary schools in the fall. It was very successful, and we're going to do a second round of it now after the holidays. During this pandemic, it has been hard to truly take care of all of us. We know that. Our lives have been difficult, disrupted in many ways. So we are redoubling our efforts there to really reach out to our associates and everybody in the schools and try to express our gratitude for the work they do every day. So we've got a couple of slides of just some of the things that we've been doing over the last year to recognize our people. Next, please. And one more. We look at year to date and we say, by all means, it has been a very successful program. Meal counts continue to go up, which obviously provides additional funds in the 510 account. We have been very fortunate to have the no charge program, and we're hoping that continues in the following year. And we have extremely dedicated and supportive people in the district and in the kitchens. And that really makes all the difference. So when we look at mid-year here, we are well exceeding costs in revenue to the district, which is a great place to be. So much so that we're able to start looking at some long-term equipment replacement and evaluate needs so that we can go into the next 20 years and make sure that we keep the program supported. So we're hoping to continue as we have to serve up happy and healthy, and take care of all the districts and the community's needs. If anybody has any questions, I would love to be able to answer them.
Do we have any questions from any board members? Yes, Ms. Weiser?
Yes, Beth.
I'd like to know, the seed to table program, what schools are you at?
Well, actually, it's going to be at all the schools. So we do it out of the central kitchen. The one I did was either at the very end of the month. We did a seat to table on what is an heirloom tomato. And we had like all those different colors, shapes, and sizes of tomatoes. Kids got to taste the tomatoes. We talked about how the seeds are passed down from generation to generation. They evolve in the soil, the climate. They're non-GMO. They have a higher nutrition content. And frankly, I just think they taste a lot better. And I was amazed at how many kids went, I don't like tomatoes. It was okay. But you know, they'd come up and they would, but then they taste it and they're like, yeah, that's good.
Good, I'm glad to hear they're actually trying the difference.
They tried it.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm excited about that one. I would do it.
You can ask me questions you want.
Another question, I was curious, the tacos buffet type of thing.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great. What, I mean, I guess we were pretty involved in getting Chartwell's hired, so that was big parts that I was curious about, wanted to see follow up on this, what you're showing, talking about now. So one of my questions about that is how the salad bars doing? And, you know, are students using that, accessing salad bars a lot?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's at every school, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then the taco, the burrito stand or whatever, make your own burritos, that's only at Lee Williams and you're piloting it there? Is
Yeah,
that,
we just started last week and we thought, well, let's get a week and a half in of doing it, collect some numbers, you know, get some statistics so that when we come back, and everybody said, well, we'll do 60 or, you know, maybe 70 students a day. We did 140 yesterday.
that's great.
It was hugely popular and kids were walking in and you could tell they've never been through those doors before.
Huh.
Because they would come in and look around, and, "Oh, it's like over here." And that, I mean, that's the idea. That's the idea, is those kids who nothing yet had compelled them. And they needed that something. And I think we found it. And of course, we can do, it's a build your own. So you get to walk up and say, "I want this, and I want this on it, and I want it mixed with that, that." And then you get to go over to a toppings bar and add additional items. So that really it gets to that place where the kids get to create their own food.
Right, and they're
That's
getting
so
nutritious food versus something slapped on the plate.
If they pick it, they eat it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we're excited to get back to this. We're excited.
Yeah, and the next question I had was we're talking 300,000 over projected. Was that annual? I missed that slide. Was that annual?
That's
Today.
that's year to date.
Okay. Fiscal year or January to?
July through November.
Wow.
Well, you know, the USDA allowing us to use what's called the single summer program, which is no charge to students, does give us a boost in participation. There's no doubt. However, I always say, you know what? The kids are always free. The parents have to pay, but you know, the kids are always free. So it's not as though the participation is wildly higher than it would be. And under the pandemic program, we do have a higher reimbursement rate, but we also have higher costs with the additional paper and the additional staff for wrapping things. So all in all, what we've got is we've moved past that tipping point where we're covering all the overhead costs and the costs and moving into where we can now, and we're excited about looking at some of the deferred replacement of capital and saying, let's get the program shored up for the next 20 years with those funds.
Can I say
Cool.
something?
Yeah,
By law, we can only, each year, you can roll over the first quarter of what the food service is going to need to operate. And I can take what's known as indirect costs, which is a percentage we negotiate with the state, and we can pull that into our fund. Other than that, that money's has to be spent, and it has to be spent within food service. And so it's a tough problem to have, but it's a good one to have, because we're sitting on like $500,000 that have to go by the end of this year, while he's projecting like basically another 500,000 that we're going to have to deal with next year. And so it's just basically the state holds your feet to the fire that you must spend it, or else you get these consistent audit findings that we have to answer for. And so basically we have no choice but to invest it all. It's not we're going to think about it. we're already doing it. Just
well,
to-
and that's what I was thinking is the funds that I was seeing, we're gonna be able to replace some equipment and get maybe more equipment than we might have needed.
Yep. You just can't, replacement is your best bet with that, right? Because federal money is always sticky, but as long as you can say replacement, or you can convince that the program relies on this very item, then you can move forward on it. Like, can you buy 15 trucks because everybody should drive? No. But can you replace all of the walk-in freezers? Yes. And can you outfit all of the cafeterias with updated seating and equipment? Yes. So there's a lot we can do and will do.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes,
Sorry,
Mr.
Keith.
Jett.
Before Chartwell's, we used to get a lot of complaints on portion size at the middle school and the high schools
Yeah.
level. How's that going with Chartwell's? Is that something that you have to deal with as well?
We occasionally, I would say, I haven't heard that complaint in a couple of months now. Last year, I know I had a couple, but we're putting all those optional foods out. And the philosophy is that here's the core piece of the meal. And then we provide all these additional things that are optional that they can take or not take. They don't have to. But in my experience in 30 years of doing this, when you give the kids choices, they pick from a variety of choices. There's gonna be something they like because we have lots of choices, and they eat what they pick. Now, during the pandemic, when we were kind of giving them a predetermined bag meal, they may have gotten plenty of food, but they looked at it and said, well, I'm gonna eat this, this, and this. And then they're still hungry. But when we give them those options with a lot of variety, they're able to fill up because everything they get, they eat. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Item 7 is the approval of the routine orders of business.
Make a motion to approve.
The motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 8, approved book that has been on display for the required 60 days beginning October 12th, 2021.
Mr. President, members of the board, this book supports our strategic goal and guaranteed curriculum for all and supporting the students' social and emotional needs. It's also supports our Mind Up curriculum.
Any questions from Ms. Woolsey or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 9, approved book that has been on display for the required 60 days beginning October 12th, 2021.
Mr. President, members of the board, this also supports our initiative and our strategic plan for providing a guaranteed curriculum for all.
I'm sorry, this is a novel, Ghost by Jason Reynolds. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Woolsey or a motion?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 10, approve book that has been on display for the required 60 days beginning October 12th, 2021. Upside Down in the Middle of Nowhere by Julie Lamana.
This book, Mr. President, members of the board, this book also supports our initiative of providing a guaranteed curriculum for all. It'll be used in our middle schools.
It's an interesting book. I read it. It's about a girl that she loses her home.
In the hurricane, correct?
Right.
Yep, yep,
Hmm.
yeah.
You read it recently? Nice.
I make a motion to approve.
Or to a child.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 11, clarify, discuss, and approve if needed language related to sick leave payout for facility staff transitioning to SSC.
Mr. President, members of the board, at the November 18th meeting, we approved a special payout of sick leave in January at board-approved rates for all facility employees. The benefit presented by the district to the board was meant for facility employees who make the transition to SSC, but it may behoove the board to better clarify its action on that item. I went back into the minutes and sorry, I can't think of the motion said to pay out sick leave in January for all facility employees. And so we bring this back before you because the district recommends paying sick leave in January only to employees who finish their final month with KUSD and make the transition over to SSC. Facility employees who resign prior to December 31st and or fail to make the initial transition to SSC shall have their sick leave payout governed by the current board approved policy, which pays out in July. And that current board approved policy is 10 years, $6.25 per hour, maximum of 1,800 sick leave hours. So that's the district's recommendation. I also provided you a couple other additional options. You could pay sick leave in January to employees who work through the 31st, but don't transition, or whether they transition or not cannot be a factor. You could remove that, or you could pay sick leave in January to any facilities employee, including those who resign prior to December 31st and failed to transition over to SSC. I'll answer any questions.
How many are choosing to resign rather than transition over?
I think I can't give you that exact number, but I think we've already had 12 to 13 people resigning, either saying they refuse to make the transition and they're just going to work out until the 31st. And then some people who have actually resigned, but those are like 2 or 3 who have resigned and no longer work for us right now. And if I'm wrong, please, Angela. Okay.
Any questions, or do you want to make a motion or clarification?
Question. So you're asking that we make a motion that would basically say that we support the current policy for separation.
No, I think we're looking for a motion that clarifies the action you took on the 18th. We're recommending that action that you take tonight clarifies it so that the only people receiving this special sick leave payout that we agreed to at the last meeting are those who transition to SSC and finish their time with KUSD. Yep.
Which I think that was the intent of the motion.
It was.
It's not the language.
It was. That's why I mentioned that. That's what we brought you as a district team.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I failed to make that clear.
No, that's fine. I'll make a motion to pay sick leave in January only to employees who finish their final month with KSD and make the transition over to SSC. Facility employees who resign prior to December 31st and or fail to make the initial transition to SSC shall have their sick leave payout governed by the current board approved policy.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would like. I
We
would
can have
like to
discussion.
see this go on where everybody who would have been qualified for any sick leave as of the decision to make this change, and then they decided to leave because they didn't want to move with that company. They might have made the decision to leave because they were able to secure another job. But I'd like to pay out the sick leave. The way we had stated it when it wasn't clear, the intent, I understand at the last board meeting, but I'd like to see it that everybody who had any coming would get it in January.
If
That's the way I feel.
I hear you correctly, you're saying that if people who are already eligible, already have worked 10 years for the district and are eligible for sick leave payout, regardless of this policy, you'd like to see them paid in January. But is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I would prefer.
Mhm.
We're in discussion on a motion that's already on the table.
Yeah, I'm with Beth here. I think these people had an expectation and it was us that broke that. So we should be on the hook for it.
I mean, I think the way the motion reads is the way that it was intended when we voted on it the first time. I think we're following our board policy, and I think we've went above that by offering the insurance benefits beyond December if they're staying with SSC.
So what was it, Aaron, that caused you pause to bring it back? Was there some sort of language that wasn't clear?
We had an employee resign and ask where his sick leave payment was. And when we told him that that's according to the policy and according to the action, that wasn't what we were doing. And then he said we'd see his lawyer. And so we discussed a best course of action. I looked back in the minutes because if I would have saw in the minutes that we were clear about who it was for, we wouldn't see it today. I thought that the minutes were ambiguous enough, despite all of this discussion during the evening, pointing to to what we're talking about now, that I wanted to bring it back for you guys to clarify it as the board. That's your guys' thing, right?
It's our
Sorry,
thing.
that didn't mean to
Thank you.
sound flip. I didn't, that sounded way more flippant than I meant.
No, you are accurate.
Well, in these cases, intent means absolutely nothing. So we have to be very clear, and what we intended versus what the motion was then really doesn't matter now because we need to make another motion. And you already have a motion on the table. And I'm with Beth. I think we need to be on the generous side of providing for our employees that had to make a difficult decision because of a decision we made.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr.
I
Jacks.
thought that evening that intent was clear when we were talking about it, how it got written up in the motion. I understand that,
Right.
but I thought the intent was clear.
So we have a motion and a second, correct? So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So we'll go ahead and vote on the motion. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Jacks? Ms. Young?
Aye.
I vote yes. Ms. Weiser?
Nay.
No,
Ms. Shumway? No. Motion passes 3-2. Item 12, approval of Power School to continue as sole source vendor for unified talent and unified classroom software.
Mr. President, members of the board, I am so excited to present these housekeeping items to you. So for our Power School, previously People Admin Incorporated is the sole source vendor for unified talent and unified classroom software. This basically houses all of our talent management technology, and it integrates nicely with Visions. There are other companies out there. There are other solutions. We like our current one and like the way the two work together. If ever there was a situation where we moved away from Visions, we would probably reconsider what was best for that next suite of stuff that we went for. So annual spending shall not exceed 100,000 for that. For Power School.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and second by Mrs. Young. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 13, approve Frontline Placement Technologies, Inc. to continue as a sole source vendor for absence management reporting software.
Mr. President, members of the board, this software is used by certified staff, site principals, HR, and finance to manage and track teacher absences, as well as assign substitute teachers. It's been in use with the district for well over a decade. It also integrates with the rest of our human management software. We would like to move forward with them as a sole source for another year. We spend less than 18 or less than 20,000 with them annually.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 14, approve Tyler Technologies, Inc. to continue as sole source vendor for Visions and Infinite Visions package.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is Visions. This is where we house all of our accounting software, as well as where people put in personnel action requests and purchase orders. It's how we buy things, pay people, track it all, and report it to the state and the feds. So we spend about 84,000 a year. We'd like to continue moving forward with them as a sole source provider.
I'll make a motion to approve Tyler Technologies as the sole source vendor.
I'll second.
Motion second by Ms. Weiser. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 15, approve MediaNet Solutions, Inc. to continue as a sole source vendor for IEP Pro and special education plan creation, documentation, and reporting.
Mr. President, members of the board, similar to the last several items, this is a piece of software that's been in the district for many years and has become integral to our operations. We'd like to continue moving forward with it. It's about 15,000 a year.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 16, approve district use of cooperative purchasing contracts outlined in the board packet.
Mr. President, members of the board, these are the organizations within the state that we can legally use to make large purchases without going out for formal RFPs at the district level. It's not that procurement isn't done in these situations, it's that procurement is done by a large cooperative that invites districts to take part of it. We've included a list of those vendors within your board packet, and we ask that you allow us to move forward with them for another year.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 17, approve revision to KUSD fiscal year 22 expenditure budget.
Mr. President, members of the board, as promised months ago, I have finally put in a revision to our budget. This accounts for our enrollment, which is up. It accounts for the new laws that the state has in effect in their reporting package and in their funding package. And it also includes the raise for all hourly classified staff. So just to be crystal clear, when we approve this budget, you're approving us to move forward on that minimum wage increase for all hourly employees within the district. So, and that amounts to 50 cents per employee. So I can answer any basic questions on this if you'd like. I did include it in your budget. I mean, in your packet. M&O's at 50 million, capital's at 7.5. Within M&O, we have 1 million tied to carryover. The rest is tied to a purchase. That doesn't guarantee it's all going to be spent, But at this point, I cannot comfortably reduce any budgets lower until I see where they are in 3 months from now. Capital, you'll see that our reserve cash is at 2.6 million. I'd like to say we're slowly rebuilding, but I miss the 6 million that was in there 3 years ago. We do have a potential issue on the horizon. I hope that you're hearing things at the state level. If any conversations are going around there, I included a story that was provided by ASBO. Essentially, the state is over its aggregate spending limit is what it's called. And in the past, the main key here is that when 301 passed as a tax in 2000, they also passed a law to go with it that says 301 will not be included in local funds. So when that expired and the state said, we're going to extend 301, they did not extend the law that says 301 is not local funds. Now, through all the court cases over this last year, the courts have ruled that 301 is considered a local fund. M&O is considered a local fund. And then your capital is considered a local fund. So when I say state and local funds, it either came from our taxes or it came from the state level. So now that 4 million we get for Classroom Site Fund 301 is being considered part of the aggregate spending. The state as a whole is over by about 16 to 18%. The legislature can come in January and override that. First, they can walk in January 1 or whatever day they show up, and they can override this and put everybody in the state at ease. If they do not do that in January, I believe it sends a clear message to districts that it's actually going to be a debate. And with it being a debate, we'll have no choice but to project a potential dire budget if comes May, because they have until May to tell us that they could cut 10 million out of our budget. And so January is going to tell us a lot. A lot of this feels like a nightmare that can't be true. But if January 31 comes and they still haven't overridden this law, then it's an issue. An easy fix, quote unquote, easy would be to override the law and then re-implement the law that takes Classroom Site Fund out of that calculation. If they do that, the state can move back forward with what we've been doing over these last 5 years in the state. If they don't do that, I don't see how this is not an issue for years to come on an annual basis. So in inflation, it has an effect on that, and COVID could have put us in a situation where that limit should be higher, but it's not. But nothing is going to account for 16 to 18% over budget. Like that story said, 1.2 billion statewide. So that's next.
Ms. Young.
And it
I'm
all
sorry.
depends on our state legislatures as to how it comes out.
Yes.
Several years ago, they swept our educational fund
Yes.
for their budget.
Yeah.
And I suggest that all parents contact their state legislators and let them know that they're concerned.
That sweeping of funds to balance their budget went on for years.
Yes, it did.
It's built into our reporting where it even says, here's your money. Now input this because we're cutting it from you. So it was almost for years just a reminder, we've taken this from you this year. This is 4 million in capital you would have had. And it finally went away. They stopped doing that. And now we're into this issue.
And they also cut some of the funding of the lotto that went to education.
And the state right now is flush with cash. There's no way around it. It has cash. It has more cash than it's had in a long time. And that's what people at the state are saying who are opposed that we're even having this discussion. So there is a level of absurdity to it, but yet here we are.
But we need to contact legislatures because elections are coming up.
Yep. Okay, so any other questions I'll take? I just wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. And then I guess we could report on that in early February, what we learned, and go down that path.
And our enrollment is up from about 500 from
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year,
yeah.
from 21.
It's real nice.
Okay, so we need I don't believe we have a motion yet to approve the revision.
I'll second.
We have a motion, second by Mr. Jacks. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 18 is to approve the donations. And I'm going to abstain from this vote tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve with our intense gratitude and thank you, Dr. Lucero.
We have a
I'll
motion
second.
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And just one abstention. Item 19, possible motion to move into, we don't need the possible motion, correct, Ms. Angela? Okay, so we have 3 employees listed. All possible motion to move into executive session per ARS 38-431.03 regarding request to be released from fiscal year 2021 employment contracts by Corvette Johnson, Donnie Bays, and David Nichols. And none of those employers are here this evening.
I would like to go into executive session to discuss one in particular.
Okay, so is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
So we have a motion to move into executive session. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of moving to executive session, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. So we'll move into executive session.
see how that works.